Imagine a single act of kindness so simple, a boy sharing his only lunch with a stranger, that it sparks a chain reaction, transforming an entire community. What if that stranger isn't who he seems, hiding a secret that could change everything? This is the story of Jack McAllister, a boy with little to give but a heart big enough to move mountains. Stay with us to uncover how one small gesture creates a wave of hope and redemption, proving that even in the darkest times, kindness can light the way. Don't miss a moment of this heartwarming journey. Let's dive in. The cold morning air bit at Jack McAllister's face as he trudged down the cracked sidewalks of Lindenwood, Ohio. His backpack hung loosely on one shoulder, its weight a faint reminder of another school day ahead. The streets were eerily quiet, lined with worn-out houses, chipped fences, and lives steeped in quiet struggles. Jack, a wiry 12-year-old with messy brown hair and eyes that carried too much worry for his age, clutched a battered lunchbox. Inside was a peanut butter sandwich, the only food he'd have until dinner. He'd learned to ignore the dull ache of hunger, just as he'd learned to ignore the whispers of classmates about his hand-me-down clothes and scuffed shoes. One step at a time, he muttered, mimicking his father's voice, a mantra from better days, before life became a series of battles his family could barely win. His father had passed 2 years ago, leaving Jack, his mother Maggie, and his little sister Anna to navigate a world that seemed determined to break them. Maggie worked double shifts at a diner, but the bills kept piling up, and their landlord, Franklin Draper, was growing impatient. As Jack approached the grocery store, a familiar landmark on his route, he noticed something new. A man slumped against the brick wall, his clothes tattered, his face thin and lined with exhaustion. His trembling hands clutched an old paper cup, and his eyes held a weary, distant look. Jack's steps faltered. His instinct was to walk past, as he'd done with countless strangers before. But something about the man, the raw, quiet determination in his gaze, made Jack hesitate. It reminded him of his mother's eyes, tired but unyielding. Jack tightened his grip on the lunchbox, his stomach twisting. Keep walking, his mind urged. The sandwich was all he had to get through the day. But his father's words echoed louder, the smallest light can brighten the darkest night. Jack stopped, his heartbeat thundering. Crouching beside the man, he opened the lunchbox and pulled out the sandwich. His stomach growled in protest, but he held it out. Here, he said softly. You need this more than I do. The man blinked, his trembling hands reaching for the sandwich. For a moment, his lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, he nodded, a slow gesture filled with gratitude. Jack stood, wiping his palms on his jeans. Take care, he mumbled, turning to continue his walk to school. The lunchbox felt lighter now, and so did his steps, though his hunger remained. At school, Jack slid into his seat as the bell rang. His mind wandered back to the man by the store. Did he eat the sandwich? Did it matter? During lunch, he sat alone at his usual spot, far from the noisy groups of kids unpacking their meals, sandwiches with thick slices of meat, juice boxes, shiny packets of chips. His stomach growled, but hunger was an old friend. Hey, Jack. Clara Summers, a classmate with a bright smile and a bouncing ponytail, plopped down beside him. Clara was one of the few who didn't care about his frayed clothes or empty lunchbox. You okay? She asked, offering half her sandwich. Jack hesitated, then took it, mumbling a quiet, thanks. Clara didn't press, she just talked about her science project, letting him eat in peace. That afternoon, Jack returned home to find Franklin Draper on the apartment steps, arms crossed, his expression as cold as the air. Maggie stood in the doorway, her voice trembling. Please, just a little more time. I'm working double shifts. Draper snorted. You've had time, Maggie. 2 weeks, that's it. He brushed past Jack without a glance. Inside, Maggie leaned against the wall, her shoulders slumped. Mom? Jack asked quietly. She forced a smile, ruffling his hair. It's nothing, sweetheart. Don't worry. But Jack did worry. That night, on his thin mattress, he stared at the ceiling. The sandwich, the man, Draper's ultimatum, it all swirled in his mind. His father's voice returned, when you can't find a way, make one. Jack clenched his fists. He didn't have much, but maybe he could make a difference. Sleep eluded Jack that night, his thoughts tangled with worry for his family and the stranger by the store. Morning brought a heavy sky, the air thick with the promise of rain. In the kitchen, Maggie stared at a stack of bills, clutching an empty mug. "Morning, Mom," Jack said, trying to sound upbeat. She startled, forcing a smile. "Morning, sweetheart." Toasts on the counter. Jack spread a thin layer of peanut butter on a slice, noticing her trembling hands. "We're going to be okay, right?" he asked. Maggie's smile faltered. "Of course, Jack. We always find a way." But her voice lacked conviction. On his way to school, Jack passed the store again. The man was gone, the empty spot against the wall a hollow reminder of fleeting kindness. At school, Jack's thoughts drifted, his focus lost in worries about home. Clara noticed during lunch. "You've been quiet," she said, sliding into the seat next to him. "What's up?" Jack hesitated. "Just, home stuff." Clara nodded, tearing her sandwich in half and handing him a piece. "You'll think better on a full stomach." Jack accepted it, guilt tugging at him. Clara's family wasn't much better off, yet she always shared. That afternoon, Jack stopped by the park, a quiet oasis in Lindenwood's chaos. Under towering oaks, he spotted the man from the store on a bench, hands limp in his lap. "Hey," Jack said cautiously. The man looked up, his eyes tired but kind. "Hey, kid. Didn't expect to see you again." Jack sat a few feet away. "You looked like you needed that sandwich more than I did." The man chuckled, a sound heavy with meaning. "And you needed it too, didn't you?" Jack shrugged. It felt right. The man nodded, studying Jack. "Not many people would have stopped. You reminded me there are still good people out there." They sat in silence for a moment before the man extended a calloused hand. "Name's Eli." Jack shook it, feeling the strength in Eli's grip despite the tremor. "Thanks, Jack. Small things like that, they matter more than you think." At home, Maggie was preparing a thin vegetable soup, stretching it as far as it could go. Jack hesitated, then told her about Eli. "The sandwich helped," he said. Maggie's brow furrowed. "You gave him your lunch?" Jack nodded. "I had Clara's sandwich, so it wasn't a big deal." Maggie's expression mixed pride and worry. "You've got a good heart, Jack. Just don't forget to take care of yourself too." That night, Jack lay in bed, his father's words echoing, "When you can't find a way, make one." He couldn't shake the feeling that helping others was the only way to ease his own burdens. Maybe he could do more, for Eli, for his mom, for everyone carrying their own struggles. The next morning, Jack scanned the park for Eli and found him on the same bench, clutching a steaming coffee cup. "Morning, Eli," Jack said hesitantly. Eli smiled faintly. "Didn't think I'd see you again so soon." Jack sat beside him. "Thought I'd check if you were here." Eli chuckled. "You're a curious one, kid. Most people don't stop twice." Jack glanced at the coffee. "Someone get that for you?" Eli nodded. "Nice lady at the diner saw me yesterday and figured I could use a warm drink. Guess you started something." Jack felt a flicker of pride. "Do you stay here a lot?" he asked. Eli's gaze drifted to the trees. "Here and there. Used to have a place, a life. Things fell apart." The weight of his words hung between them. Jack offered, "If you need anything else, I can try to help." Eli smiled, a mix of gratitude and something unreadable. "You've done more than most, kid. Maybe not today, but someday I'll take you up on that." At school, Clara noticed Jack's distraction. "You've been weird lately," she said during math. "What's going on?" Jack whispered, "I met someone who needs help." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "Just this guy at the park. He's homeless." Clara's face softened. "And you're helping him?" Jack nodded. "It feels like it's not enough." Clara smiled. "You've got a good heart, Jack. Let me know if I can help." That afternoon, Jack passed the park and saw Eli with a tall man in a gray suit, talking in low tones. The man handed Eli an envelope and walked away. "Who was that?" Jack asked cautiously. Eli tucked the envelope into his jacket. "Old acquaintance. People come and go." His tone discouraged questions, but Jack's curiosity burned. They sat together, Jack sketching in his notebook, a habit inherited from his father. Eli watched, impressed. "You've got talent, kid. Don't lose that." For an hour, they shared a quiet connection, Jack drawing, Eli watching the world pass by. At home, Maggie was talking with a neighbor, Mrs. Connolly, about rent hikes and late payments. Jack joined her at the kitchen table. "Mom," he began, "I want to do something to help people." Maggie's expression softened. "You already help, Jack. You help me, Anna." "No, I mean more," he said firmly. "There's a guy at the park. He's had it rough, but he's kind. I think I can do something for him, and others." Maggie placed a hand over his. "You've got a big heart. Just remember we can't save everyone." Jack nodded, but a spark of determination glimmered in his eyes. That night, Jack sketched the park, adding two figures on a bench, one young, one older, finding connection in a quiet moment. His father's words echoed, "When you can't find a way, make one." "Maybe this is the way," Jack whispered. Jack couldn't shake the image of Eli and the suited man. The envelope, the quick exchange, it felt significant, but Eli's dismissal left Jack with more questions. The next morning, the park bench was empty. At school, Clara sensed his unease. "He wasn't there today, was he?" she asked. Jack shook his head. "I hope he's okay," he replied, worry settling in. On his way home, Jack's heart sank. Franklin Draper's car was parked outside their apartment, the landlord's cold voice carrying through the door. "You've had time, Maggie," Draper said. "Either pay up or be ready to leave." Maggie's voice rose in frustration. "I'm doing everything I can." Jack clenched his fists, anger and helplessness swirling inside him. That evening, Jack found Eli back at the park, but he wasn't alone. Clara was there, handing Eli a bag of apples from her family's small garden. "Clara?" Jack said, surprised. She grinned. "You said you wanted to help. I figured I'd start." Eli looked between them, his eyes softening. "You kids are something else." Jack sat down, his mind racing. "Eli, I want to do more. For you, for others like you." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Big dreams, kid. Takes more than apples and sandwiches." Jack nodded. "I know. But I have an idea." Over the next week, Jack and Clara rallied their classmates. They started a kindness chain, asking kids to donate food, clothes, or time to help those in need. Jack drew flyers, his sketches of the park and its people tugging at heartstrings. The school principal allowed a donation box in the cafeteria, and soon, kids were bringing canned goods, blankets, and even small toys for younger siblings in struggling families. Word spread beyond the school. Mrs. Connolly baked bread for the cause, and the diner owner who'd given Eli coffee donated meals. Jack's flyers caught the eye of a local reporter, and a small article about the kindness chain appeared in the town paper. Donations poured in, and Jack and Clara organized a community event at the park to distribute supplies. On the day of the event, the park buzzed with life. Neighbors set up tables, kids handed out food, and music played from a borrowed speaker. Jack scanned the crowd for Eli and found him near his usual bench, holding a new jacket from the donation pile. "You did this, kid," Eli said, his voice thick with emotion. "I haven't seen this town come together like this in years." Jack blushed. "It wasn't just me. Clara, everyone, they helped." Eli placed a hand on his shoulder. "It started with you. That sandwich, it reminded me I wasn't invisible. Gave me the push to reach out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years." Jack's eyes widened. "The guy in the suit?" Eli nodded, pulling out the envelope. "He's an old friend. Used to work together, back when I had a different life. I lost everything, my business, my family, when things went south. Your kindness made me think maybe I could start again. He's helping me get back on my feet." Before Jack could ask more, Maggie called him over. She stood with Franklin Draper, whose expression was softer than Jack had ever seen. "Jack," Maggie said, her eyes shining, "Mr. Draper heard about your project. He's giving us an extension on the rent, and he's donating to the kindness chain." Jack's jaw dropped. Draper cleared his throat. "What you're doing here, it's good work, kid. Makes me think twice about how I've been handling things." Jack nodded, too stunned to speak. As the event wound down, Jack and Eli sat on the bench, watching the community laugh and share. "You were right, Eli," Jack said. "Small things matter." Eli smiled. "And you proved they can become big things." Months later, the kindness chain grew into a town-wide initiative. Eli found work through his old friend and a small apartment to call his own. Maggie's shifts at the diner became more stable, and the family's apartment was safe. Jack's sketches adorned the community center, a reminder of the boy who turned a sandwich into a movement. And so, from a single peanut butter sandwich, a community found its heart again. Jack McAllister's small act of kindness didn't just feed a stranger, it fed hope, connection, and redemption for an entire town. What can your small act of kindness do? Let this story inspire you to take that first step, to share your own sandwich with the world. Like, comment, and subscribe to join us for more stories that remind us of the power of compassion. Together, we can create our own chain reaction of hope.